I think when I first started doing these, one of the things I mentioned and the reason for doing these videos was the importance of studying history, not as we would like it to be, but as it was, and to see what people did before, how they handled problems and difficulties, and if we can learn from their mistakes and the things they did well and did right. All of history is a building process. I think I mentioned one time that Newton, when he was being honored, said that he stood on the shoulders of giants. And if you disassociate yourself from the past, you don't learn anything from it. And we evidently been not learning for a while now, and that's another reason I've been doing these. Earlier, I talked a little bit about this mess in Afghanistan, and I truly believe part of that, a big part of that, is no one really considered the worst case scenario. And that's hard for me to understand because we supposedly are being led by people who have multiple degrees from our most prestigious universities, the Ivy League primarily, and our military academies. I think the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff has like a PhD, and I think he went to Columbia and some other places in this, and I know that nearly all our generals now and admirals have advanced degrees from Ivy League type universities. Well, evidently they weren't really listening, or they didn't really study, or they weren't really taught anything, because Afghanistan is a prime example. I mean, the British had horrible experiences there, and they had successes there. And we only studied, we evidently avoided studying either one. And the Russians had their problems there, and others. Alexander the Great seemed to do okay, and he did it with swords and spears. So you need to take a lot of things into account. But I remember I was a Boy Scout, and the motto, I guess it still is, all of the Boy Scouts seem to have been changed, was be prepared. And part of that was, and again, I went through OCS in the Army. I was never in combat. But one of the things you learn from be prepared, or preparing a combat plan or a mission plan, is you not only prepare for the best outcome. Everybody wants the best outcome. But what happens if everything goes wrong? And the idea is that if everything goes wrong, you had better be ready, because probably everything's going to go wrong. It's very seldom everything goes right. And yeah, Napoleon was like that. I mean, evidently our military people don't study Grant, Lee, Jackson, Bedford Forrest, Rommel, Patton, Napoleon, Caesar, Alexander. They've all had their ups, every one of them had their ups and downs. And we can learn from every one of them, and we evidently don't want to do that. We were trying to change a 6th century country, essentially, and drag it into the 21st century by those Ivy League university standards. That didn't evidently sit very well, or you know, but. The whole thing is I heard the Secretary of Defense, who's a general, a retired general, complaining when someone was asking him about this. Well, when Biden took office, Trump was already negotiating this May with the beginning of withdrawals and so forth, so there wasn't anything they could do. Well, actually there was, because they've overturned almost every Trump decision made since they took office, and the Pentagon should have, they've got thousands of people working there, supposedly bright, should have been planning for just this type of scenario. You know, where now why you would leave all the equipment, leave before you took all your people out, leave, you know, all of that. That's another discussion, and I'm probably going over now. But the thing is you have to plan, and part of this is some of our leadership has never suffered any consequences for screwing up, ever. Right now, we've got people in our government and in our military, they're just going to rock right along, no big deal, you know, we'll just move along. And as I mentioned, I think another time, when George C. Marshall in World War II was head of all our Army guys, from 1942 to 1945, he fired 32 corps and division, these are all generals, commanders, 32, because they couldn't or wouldn't get the job done. Competence is important in diplomacy, in the military, in business. You're going to screw up, and you have to try to plan for that. And you're still going to screw up. But the thing is be somewhat ready and prepared for the worst outcome. You have a good day.